This
Secretary for
conference will now
Stewardship
be
and Planned
recorded.
Giving at the Presbyterian Church in Canada, and I'm happy to be the host today for this webinar. Jim McDonald, the PCC's Development Manager, will be leading us through the ups and downs of introducing digital giving in your congregation, particularly through websites and terminals. There's a lot of material that's going to be presented, and some of it is quite technical, but he's trying to make it as easy as possible for you to understand the pros and cons of all of the different tools. At the end of the webinar, we'll provide an opportunity for questions, but feel free to type them in as we go along. People's mics are muted so that we don't get feedback, so you can ask your questions through the chat bar, which I hope that you all can see. All right, I want to turn it over to Jim so that he can introduce you with this exciting topic. A reminder that the recording will be posted online, so if you miss things, you'll be able to come back and watch it again and again at presbyterian.ca and then search for previous webinars.
Hi, yeah, so we're going to be talking today about digital giving. So here we are, digital giving. So first of all, modern technology has made transacting easier. So done well, it can break down barriers to giving that exist. Electronic giving is a great thing because it benefits both the church and the giver by making the giving process frictionless. It's certainly easier than writing a check or handling cash. And also it cuts way down on the time spent counting the money and keeping records. So people of all ages are adopting more card and digital payment methods. So it's not just younger people who are walking around without cash nowadays. So today we're going to talk about all the different digital tools that are out there, and we're going to concentrate on specific ones that I think will be particularly useful to your churches. So before we say anything about digital giving, I just wanted to start the webinar by talking about PAR. Pre-Authorized Remittance is by far the simplest form of digital giving. It's just one form downloaded from the PCC website and you're done. It's administered by the United Church in Canada, which helps keep costs down. It's for your regular committed donors. PAR costs only 50 cents per donor each month with a monthly maximum of $45 a month for a congregation. So compared to almost all other digital methods of giving, it's very cost effective. So if you'd like to make monthly offerings to your congregation through PAR, you can obtain an authorization form from your congregation or just send me an email. You won't need a credit card or debit card, only a void check is needed. Okay, so first of all, let's talk about what's involved in choosing online digital tools. What's the technology required? How simple will it be? We can all imagine some of this stuff seems awfully daunting, doesn't it? Will it collect the tax receipt info I need? Will it give out receipts? Do I give out the receipts? Who gives out the receipts? What's the upfront cost in time and effort for the setup? And will I need an internet connection in my church? Do I need a merchant account, et cetera, et cetera? As you can see, all of these things that we've listed here. Yeah, there's a lot of questions, and I'm going to try and answer as many of them as I can today. So let's start by talking about CanadaHelps.org. So this has got to be the easiest way to set up digital giving for your website, and frankly, it's possible to use it even inside your church. So the most important thing about CanadaHelps.org is your church is already there. Now, over 20,000 charities in Canada use Canada Helps for online donations. So it's very trustworthy, very secure, has the highest and best e-commerce practices. And there are two types of accounts, and both of them are free. As I said, you're already there, and that's a free account. Every registered charity in Canada has a free profile account. And if any gifts are given through CanadaHelps.org, a check is forwarded to charity at the end of the year, even if you didn't set up your profile. But by claiming your profile and creating a full fundraising account with CanadaHelps.org, you can take advantage of customizable donation forms, peer-to-peer social fundraising, and also ticketed events. So CanadaHelps.org does not charge for a full fundraising account. There's no difference in terms of its cost, except for the transaction fees, which I'll describe momentarily.
Jim, I think one of the things with the full fundraising account is if you claim your account, you can have payments made immediately. You think they're done monthly as opposed to at year end and directly into your bank account.
Yeah, you don't have to wait for them. They're not a surprise because you've set up an account and you're managing it responsibly, as opposed to letting it just happen at CanadaHelps.org. And of course, once you've got that full fundraising account, you can start using the tools that Canada Helps makes available. So if you visited CanadaHelps.org and click on the For Charities link, which you see here, you can select Claim Your Charity Profile from the pop-down menu. And the absolute simplest way to get a donation form from your website is by adding a simple link that points to your charity page on the CanadaHelps.org website. CanadaHelps.org hosts the page. So the only reason not to do this is that it takes visitors away from your website and takes them to their website. So with a full account, you can embed a Canada Helps form directly into your website, right on a web page. And it keeps givers from leaving your site. So I'm going to talk about how that's done technically when we talk about Tithely. But for now, let's just talk about sort of at the 20,000 feet level, if you will, with Canada Helps. So CanadaHelps.org allows you to set up unlimited customizable donation forms. You can add custom header imagery like your logo or a photo of your church and text to the form. You can choose from 5 different templates and you get to select all your colors for all the different parts of the page. And you get to write your customized thank you message. So peer-to-peer fundraising is one of the options available, and there's no extra charge for this. It allows you to prompt members of your congregation and friends they share the link with to share a link to the specific fund that you've associated with your Fundraise Now button. So enthusiastic members of your church can invite their family and friends to support your congregation and bring people back to your webpage. So crowdsourced fundraising is the fastest growing source of charitable donations, and Canada Helps reports that peer-to-peer social fundraising tools have been used to raise funds for refugee sponsorships and other programs very successfully for churches. So this is a great way to get people engaged. So I began this webinar starting with CanadaHelps.org because it's by far the easiest way to get started with digital giving. You can set up a free fundraising account with CanadaHelps.org and pay no registration or monthly maintenance fees. And Canada Helps will collect your donation, deposit the funds in your bank account, less their fees. And as you can see here, the fee depends on the circumstance. And the one I draw your attention to is the first line, which says customizable donation form, one-time and monthly donations. You set up your own customized donation form, and it's a flat 3.5% charge on any donation you receive through that form. And some of these, I won't go through detail by detail here on the others, but let's just say that as circumstances change for how the donation is received, sometimes the amount of money charged can change depending on where you are and which tool you're using. These are the fees for Canada Helps. So Canada Helps, one important idea about Canada Helps, you have to remember, is that it is a registered Canadian charitable foundation. So Canada Helps always issues the tax receipt. CanadaHelps.org it means that the churches that work with Canada Helps do not receive gifts that come, or do not receipt gifts that come to them through CanadaHelps.org. So if you receive a gift from CanadaHelps.org, don't give a tax receipt to the donor. CanadaHelps.org has already done that.
It's also kind of an interesting one, Jim, because as you said, all registered Canadian charities are already in Canada Helps. So if somebody is making a donation to their university or to a local hospital, they could make a donation to your church at the same time, and they'd have all of their donor gift on one receipt from Canada Helps.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, you can aggregate your gifts to different charities at Canada Helps, and you have donors have their own dashboard there. Okay, so let's move on to the next tool, and that is Tithely, tithe.ly. Tithely is an alternative to CanadaHelps.org. It allows people to give through your website via donation page. It can be used in a kiosk in the narthex of your church if you set up a tablet or a PC. And it also has an optional mobile app, which I'll talk about momentarily. So unlike CanadaHelps.org, Tithely does not issue a receipt from itself. Instead, it collects the data your church needs in order to provide receipts. So you can tell Tithely to generate your church's income tax receipt immediately, or you can turn off that functionality and provide the receipts yourself at year end, as you normally do. You'd be able to access all the data needed to tally receipts. So PCC churches have been given a special rate with Tithely. Special credit card transaction rate of just 2.75% plus 30 cents per transaction. So that's less than the standard rate, which is 2.9%. Like CanadaHelps.org, no contract or monthly minimums are required. And after processing, and it's usually about 1 or 2 business days, funds are deposited directly and automatically into your bank account. So Tithely is a financial management tool, or has, I should say, a financial management tool that's optional. It costs an additional US $50 a month, and it allows you to add your cash and check transactions to manage your complete donation reporting. And this isn't the only tool that does that. There are other management tools online, different websites that will allow you to do this, and I'll be talking about them later. But there is, as you can see, an extra fee for this functionality for the church. Tithely also offers text to give. Text to give is not what you'd think it is. I mean, I automatically thought when I heard about text to give that it would deduct from my Rogers or my Bell cell phone account, but that's not what happens. Instead, the donor has to set up an account with Tithely and provide a credit card. Then they can text to give. And this is true of all text to give providers. So when you hear text to give, it's not that people will just be able to instantly type in a phone number and say, send $5 and off it'll go, and you'll find it on your Bell bill. That's not how it works. Instead, they have to set up an account with the provider like Tithely or any number of other companies that offer this sort of text to give stuff. And even in the case of Tithely, there's an additional $9 a month fee. Which is actually a discount for PCC churches. But again, you may or may not find that useful because of the amount of effort that has to go into actually setting up an account just to do it. Okay, another option Tithely offers for US $59 a month is their app, which is kind of cool. It's beyond a website, a mobile website. It's a full app that you can get for iPhones and Android phones. And the Presbyterian Church in Canada has set one up, so you can check it out. If you go into Google Play or into iTunes and apps, and you can download the app and check it out and see how it works. So the one thing I'd want to point out more than anything is that requires staff or volunteer time. You can imagine, companies have entire staff just for their websites, and that's for good reason. So if you're going to get yourself involved in building an app like this, you can imagine you're going to have to fill it with content to make it usable. If the content doesn't refresh regularly, people will get bored with it and they won't go back. So even though it offers, as you can see in this list, a lot of really great items that you can do, nevertheless, this is something that is quite an investment of time to get involved with. And it would be very useful, and of course, it's particularly attractive to web-savvy users who like mobile apps. So I think a lot of people would enjoy it, but again, a lot of work. Okay, so let's talk now about embedding forms on your website. And I'm going to get a little technical here, but only for a moment, and I won't stay this technical for very long, so don't worry. So in Canada Helps and Tithely, you can embed forms practically the same way. You create a button, like this example I'm showing here, simple button, and to do that, the tool actually generates the code needed, and you copy and paste that code into your website. And usually it's pretty simple, especially if you've made websites before. And if you hadn't, you might be able to find someone in your congregation who is able to do that. So let's take a look at what the code actually looks like. Oh my goodness, I know this looks like very complex, but it's actually very simple because all of this code is provided to you just as you see it here, and you or your website person can simply copy and paste it into a page. So in this example, for the simple embedded button that we just saw, only the text in yellow is any different from any other simple Tithely button. It includes the 6-digit identifier for the church, in this case shown as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in quotes, and then the text that you want to show on the button. So as scary as all this code may seem, it's as easy to use as copy and paste. Now here's another couple of buttons that Tithely can make. It also allows you to create embedded buttons that direct to a specific gift type, as in this top button that will only donate to Vacation Bible School. And you can create an embedded button that directs a specific amount of money to a specific purpose, and you can indicate that payment to register, let's say, for camp. It does not receive a charitable receipt. Oh, in this case, registering for camp doesn't receive a charitable receipt, and you can indicate that when you set up the button so that a charitable receipt isn't generated. So to do this, you have to add a few words to the code that I showed you in the previous slide, and they walk you through it step by step. It's pretty easy. Okay, so here is what a form from Tithely looks like. And most of these donation forms look like this, so it's a good example. And you'll find, you can see here, there's a list of giving types that you can pop down. And you set those up yourself. They're custom giving types. And so when an individual comes to give, they select the giving type, and then they put in their card number and their name and their contact information for their tax receipt. And it's just that simple. They can also choose to cover the fees. You can see that button there. If that was clicked, the fees that I spoke about earlier would be added to the amount. So, you know, if it was a $10 gift, there might be $2.50 or whatever the amount would be for this type of donation added on top to cover the cost of Tithely's fees. Okay, so here's another question that's technical, and again, I won't spend too much time on it, but it's the question of what is SSL? Now, this is a web page that is secured by SSL technology. SSL stands for Secure Socket Layer, and the keyword here is secure, and that's what is represented by that little lock that the yellow arrow is pointing at. That lock icon must be there, or Tithely forms embedded in your website simply will not work. Now, this lock icon means you have SSL properly installed, and so does the use of the term, or in the URL, the use of the HTTPS beginning instead of simply HTTP. So if you embed here's the difference, one of the differences between Canada Helps and Tithely. If you embed a CanadaHelps.org donation form on a page on your website, which is not secured by SSL, the Canada Helps form itself will remain secure and will work. That won't work with Tithely. What happens is Canada Helps donation form is protected by the security level on the Canada Helps website. So all that being said, remember, secure pages are easily identifiable by that lock symbol and or the use of the HTTPS in the address field. So many Canadians nowadays will check the URL field for the lock and the HTTPS before paying online. So as a result, embedding the donation page on a secure page will ensure your more security savvy donors have full confidence when donating on your site. Now, there is an additional charge to apply SSL to your website, and that depends on your website provider. So let's talk about setting up. This is the basic information you'll need to set up a CanadaHelps.org or Tithely account. we have how-to documents on presbyterian.ca to help you with setting up your canadahelps.org or Tidely account. So please feel free to contact me, and I'll be happy to email them to you. The one bullet point I'd like to point out, however, is at the very top. Scanned image of driver's license or other legal ID for legal representative is a requirement of the Tidely organization. And that sometimes can be a little touchy when you're in session and you're trying to explain to one of the session members that you want a photocopy of the driver's license so you can send it to Tidely. So that can cause some discomfort. Just a heads up that's part of the process of setting up your Tidely account.
I guess it helps make sure that other people aren't setting it up on your behalf and taking money for your congregation.
Yeah, that's right. It's part of the security procedures that Tidely uses. Now, one of the things that is very different between these two is how they charge. The PCC Tidely rate is 2.75% plus 30 cents per transaction, and Canada Helps charges a flat 3.5% for a customized form. So for donations of $20, you save 15 cents per transaction, the church does, with CanadaHelps.org, and for donations of $60, you save 15 cents per transaction with Tidely, and that's because of the difference between the ways they calculate their fees. So as you can see, at the $40 level, they both charge the same fee, but anything over $40, and Tidely has the advantage. They have the less expensive fees. But cost is only one of the things to keep in mind when selecting a digital giving tool. Ease of use and administration are also really important factors. Okay, so there are other tools out there. IATS is one of them. They cost $10 a month to do business with. They do have a nice low fee, starting at 2.05% plus 25 cents, and that's really why I'm mentioning them. They have an iPhone app that works with their mobile reader, which costs $125. And they are a payments company that's focused on nonprofits, and their forms are beautiful. But all that being said, they're not as big a player in the field as Canada Helps and Tidely, but you're welcome to check them out. You'll save money. By the way, IATS is a more complex system, and that would require additional hours to orchestrate. So we've discussed online fundraising tools, and these allow you to link to online forms or embed forms on your website using personal computers or mobile devices like tablets and mobile phones. So let's talk about standalone payment companies for a moment. Now, these companies do not necessarily provide you with embedded forms, but they offer terminal devices and other benefits we can discuss. First of all, there's no cost to join PayPal. This is PayPal we're talking about now. The fee is fabulous at 1.6% plus 30 cents per transaction. And that plus I put beside the 1.6 is, as I mentioned before, it depends on how it's transacted. Sometimes the fees will go up. You can pay using your PayPal account or credit card. You embed buttons, not forms. You still paste code, but the button takes you to a PayPal webpage. I mention it because I know a lot of people are familiar with PayPal and they would think that PayPal is a good choice. I have to say that it has a history of problematic usage that makes users leery. I don't know if they maybe have fixed all their problems a year and a half ago. I don't know. But I can tell you that in my experience, there's sufficient problematic usage, especially with credit cards, enough complaints that I've heard that I would avoid PayPal. But you know, you're welcome to use it if you know it well. I mean, after all, if you know it, it'll work.
Okay, so let's review the anatomy of a debit card. So what you're looking at here is a co-badged card that shows both the Interac logo and the Visa Debit logo, which is a very recognizable debit card in Canada right now. This card comes with a chip that provides additional security, and the RFID symbol, the one that looks like a little Wi-Fi symbol, means that the card is tap enabled. An Interac logo and or a Visa Debit logo means it is a debit card and will deduct existing funds from the user's bank account. So if you see the Interac logo along with the logo of a competing payment brand like Visa Debit, you have a co-badged card. So your co-badged debit card enables you to use Interac Debit to shop at point of sale and access funds at instant tellers. However, it uses an alternative network, usually Visa Debit and sometimes Debit MasterCard, for online payments instead of Interac Online. Interac does offer something called Interac Online for online purchases and donations, but it requires you to open your online bank account during the transaction, which involves extra steps and makes users kind of scared. So it just simplifies everything for online transactions to use a Visa-based network or a MasterCard-based network. So most banks have gone with this co-badged card and use Visa Debit or MasterCard Debit for online transactions. In either case, by using debit, donors are giving from the money they already earned and are not going into debt when making an offering. So, of the 5 major Canadian banks, 4 have debit cards that use Visa Debit, which allows customers to make online, over the phone, and mail order purchases, as well as recurring payments directly from their bank account via the Visa network. 3 of these banks use co-branded debit cards that can also be used for point-of-sale transactions that are processed as Interac transactions in Canada, but as Visa transactions outside of Canada wherever Visa is accepted. Uniquely, the RBC, Royal Bank of Canada, Virtual Visa Debit is used specifically for card-not-present transactions only, such as online, over the phone, mail order, and some recurring purchases. So RBC customers with this type of card cannot make an offering by tap or chip device, but can make an online offering. Because RBC Virtual Visa debit cards are for card-not-present transactions, they're not co-branded with Interac, and a chip or magnetic strip is not required. If you look on the right, you'll see another odd card out. Of the 5 major Canadian banks, only BMO, the Bank of Montreal, uses debit MasterCard. Similar to most Canadian Visa debit cards, the BMO's debit MasterCard is co-branded with Interac and operates solely over that network for point-of-sale transactions in Canada, but uses the MasterCard network for internet and international transactions. So, when people want to give from existing funds, their personal bank accounts, online forms use Visa Debit or Debit MasterCard, and payment terminals with tap or chip cards use Interac for in-person transactions. So for in-person transactions where a debit card won't function via tap or using the chip, inputting the number manually will mean using the Visa Debit or MasterCard Debit network, not Interac. Later on, I'll be talking about using a terminal device in your church, which will allow you to receive gifts via Interac, and your givers can pay it safe, as the Interac people like to say. And most importantly, of course, Interac charges less per transaction. Now, I mention all this because this is a distinct difference between online donation services like Tithely and CanadaHelps.org and payment companies like Square or Cloverflex. CanadaHelps.org and Tithely, for instance, accept Visa Debit and Debit MasterCard payments. Square devices will use the Interac network, which offers lower fees for tap and chip transactions using terminal devices in your church during a bake sale or anywhere your church plans to take payments.
So let's talk about mobile payments. The RFID symbol I mentioned on the Interac card is for tap, but it isn't just for tap. It also means that you can do mobile payments as well, and that's payments using Apple Pay or Google Pay or Samsung Pay from your mobile device. So you're essentially tapping your phone or having your phone scanned with a QR code on it. And this is my first choice for a terminal solution. Square Reader accepts all major cards, including Interac, both chip and PIN, with no monthly fees. You pay just 2.65% for credit cards and a 10-cent flat rate for debit. It lets customers simply tap their debit cards for payments under $100, or they can insert their debit cards and enter their PIN for payments of any size. So funds will be deposited directly in your bank account as fast as the next business day. So it really allows you, for a terminal solution, a very simple solution. You can try Square for risk-free for 30 days. There's no long-term contracts. And Square, as I said, offers a very low rate. So these are the devices that Square offers. The terminal, contactless and chip, the stand, which is really more, as you can see, it's more for a retail situation, and then the mag stripe. And we'll go through each of these quickly. So first of all, this device, the contactless and chip device you see on the right here works through Bluetooth, directly connecting to your mobile device, whether it's a tablet or a phone. So you can collect customer information right from the transaction screen on Square point of sale app, and any details collected this way will be available in your customer directory in your online Square dashboard. So there's a website you can go to which has a dashboard, and you can look up all of your donations. And to track your donations, you just view payment details by visiting transactions. So let's move forward. So as you can see here, this is an individual tapping a card on the Square device. There's an insert, and they've brought up a keyboard on the phone. So this is the third device. This is Square Terminal, and it's an all-in-one device for payments and receipting, although of course not tax receipts. And it takes every type of payment securely and reliably with fraud prevention, just like all the other Square devices. And they have phone support, so you can call up if something's going wrong. And the reason why I like it is I think it would fit very nicely in the narthex. You insert a chip card, you can scan a card with a stripe on it, and it'll print out receipts. Official tax receipts, of course, must be generated by the church.
So this one's nice because it stands alone and it doesn't have to go with a phone.
Right, exactly. This one is a standalone device.
So here's a question. How do you get the person's full name and address to issue the receipt if they're paying by Square? Or they're donating by Square? Do you have to get them to fill out a form for you?
Yeah, you'd have to capture that information either digitally or in some other way. The tool does allow for that. It's built into the programming. So yes, you have to capture that information. Okay, so Square Online Store is necessary if you want to take advantage of the fact that you've already got a relationship with Square. You've got the terminal, or you've picked up the chip scanner, and now you're thinking, well, I've already got a relationship with Square. I may as well do all of my embedded forms or my forms online, my donation forms on my website with Square. Well, you can do that. Square has an online store. Now, it's not integrated with any kind of fancy fundraising tools, but there is a dashboard. It does work with charities, although it is designed for merchants. Nevertheless, it's very simple, and it adds steps, but it's relatively simple. And of course, you still have to do the accounting and manage all the receipts. All right. So our last category here are management tools that are available to you. Now, those are management tools that are used for fundraising and member management and ministry management and the growth strategy, financial tools. And of course, most of the time they're used by larger churches because you have to have staff to sort of feed these tools. Nevertheless, they're very useful in growing churches and analyzing data and collecting information that you need. And a lot of these tools are being used even right now by churches in the PCC. So the first one I'd want to talk about is My Charity. My Charity is not specifically for churches, it's for charities in general. And My Charity offers a fundraising platform that's scalable, so you can start out as a small church that wants to use this technology to grow, and then you can scale up the tools you use as the congregation increases. It has a donor database, a relationship tool, and My Charity's Contact Manager provides one place to create and edit donor profiles, capture occupation and demographics, I should say, and any interactions that take place. So you can access your donor's giving history with this, receipts, campaigns, payment types, and send tax receipts. But there's a lot of marketing tools in here as well, email marketing and special campaigns that you can make, a lot of different tools that they make available. So, and that includes a terminal. Now, their terminal isn't Square, it's called CloverFlex, but nevertheless, it allows donors to give anytime, anywhere, just like Square. You can collect donations on the go with CloverFlex, which is a tool that is, as I said, similar to Square. Every transaction syncs with your MyCharity donor base, which is different from Square. It makes donor data entry obsolete. So the one benefit here is that when you scan a card and capture payment data with CloverFlex, it's going to go directly into MyCharity. However, there is a fee associated, a monthly fee associated with CloverFlex. Now, normally that's $50 a month, but for PCC churches, we get a special rate of $40 a month. And as you may remember, Square has no monthly charges, but it doesn't integrate with any charity tools. So there's the difference there. CloverFlex integrates with MyCharity. So MyCharity.com's launch plan is usually $29 a month. However, they've offered a special deal for PCC churches. Any PCC church who signs up for MyCharity.com's launch plan, which includes all the bullet points you see here in terms of tools and technologies, they will receive the plan for $0 a month indefinitely. So should you want to utilize these more advanced features and then go on to go to their more advanced plans, that pricing will be as advertised. But for their basic launch plan, that's no charge per month. So any church wishing to use MyCharity's point of sale CloverFlex device, as I mentioned before, will be able to get it for $40 a month instead of $50. So they've offered us a nice deal. And this offers PCC churches the chance to try out MyCharity.com's online tools and see if it's something that will work for them. So here's a couple of other, this is another example of a tool that's used that has basically a suite of management tools, PushPay, and it's really kind of designed for larger churches. As you can see, they're pretty much all about administrative workflows, and they're for really kind of mega churches. But I just wanted to mention that it exists because it is out there, and I wouldn't want anyone to think we didn't know about it. It's just, for most of us, it's pretty sizable. I mean, the most important thing about PushPay is there's a minimum buy-in of $200 per month. So it does offer a suite of tools that you may find very useful, especially in a large church. But the actual monthly charge to get involved is quite costly. So, all right, here's another one, Planning Center. You may have heard of it. And again, it's a church management software. They run things a little differently. They price everything a la carte, and they have different apps. So they have a child and volunteer check-in app, donation management, groups management, membership management, which is included with whatever you get, event registrations, church event management, service planning and scheduling, mobile music reader, which is, I don't know, I didn't get involved in that, but that sounds really cool. And like Tithely, Church Center has a mobile app for your congregants. So there's a lot to choose from here, and you pay for it based on the number of people that are using the tool and which tools you choose. So as you can see here as an example, here's an a la carte menu where I've checked off check-ins and giving and groups, and the monthly total ends up being $84 a month. So that explains how they basically price their management tools. And Planning Center works with Stripe as a terminal. However, unlike MyCharity, which deals with the CloverFlex relationship for you, you have to set up the relationship with Stripe yourself. It will work with Stripe, but you have a separate account with Stripe. So that's a level of complexity that I think kind of puts it out of the running in my mind. But you might have someone in your congregation who wants to volunteer for this, for whom Stripe is their thing, and then it's like, fabulous, go for it, it'll work. So just a thought, I still think, especially with the deal that MyCharity is offering us, it's a really good time to try MyCharity out as a tool, and then maybe look at the others once you've become familiar with how these tools work. Okay, so let's do a recap. First of all, we start with PAR, monthly giving for your regular donors. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, it's an easy way to introduce digital giving to your congregation and get regular income from your givers.
Yeah, and it makes it regular. And when the seasons are down, you're still the church is still making an income. CanadaHelps.org. Just remember, you're already on it, so it's a really good idea to go and capture your account. Even if you don't want to get aggressive with using it, you'll get paid more quickly if you claim your account. Tithely offers more tools and more options. I have set it up already once helped out Reverend Herb Gale at St. Andrew's Kitchener. We put it together a Tithely account and set it up, and it worked great. It's a fabulous way to do it, so well worth checking out. Square has got to be the easiest way to do terminal, but it doesn't link back to any kind of church management tool, so it does create a need for an extra step of accounting, but it's so easy to use that if you're going to start using a tool like that in your church, you reduce the amount of time people spend interfacing with the device. And let's face it, one of the biggest problems with using digital giving in a church during the time that we're doing our worship services is that it bogs us down time-wise. So any way that we can speed things up, we've got a chance of using digital giving responsibly and intelligently. So I really think Square is worth checking out for your church. And then finally, there's My Charity, which among the management tools, because they're offering us an opportunity to play with it for free and learn about it, if you're thinking that a management tool would be useful, you've got the volunteers and staff that would be interested to check it out. I think it's a very interesting way to work on fundraising, growing your church, and making an impact with your existing list, adding to your list, and actually you can do email campaigns. There's a lot involved there, and I think you'd find it very useful. So finally, we have questions. Now is the time if anybody has any questions. I know we've covered a lot of information. A lot of it's been very technical, and there's a lot of different options out there. So if you've got any questions, please just type them into the chat area at the bottom of your GoToMeeting window, and I'll be happy to answer them.
So I want to know, one question is, do we know what kind of cost is involved in purchasing or renting the Square Reader Terminal?
The Square Reader Terminal is $299, and the Tap and Chip Reader is $59.
One-time fee. So that is, I don't know if I mentioned that. If I didn't, I'm sorry, I'm remiss in doing that. But yep, there's a $59 fee to get started.
If you have these type of digital givings, for example, or you have a kiosk set up at the back of the church, so somebody inputs and makes their digital gift before church or after, is there some way that they can still participate in the offering when the offering is happening during the worship service? Well, I think I've seen with the PAR, for example, when people give through PAR, there's a card that we have that comes with it. So people can pick up their PAR card and they can put it in the offering so that when the offering plate comes by, they have something to put on.
Oh, yes, right.
So I think the same, if you were using a kiosk at the back of the church, you could have a card that somebody could fill out and put in the plate, just so that they've given and they're participating.
Yeah, no, of course, yes, right. The idea that if you gave in the narthex, you could pick up a business-sized card that was placed there that basically said, I gave digitally, and you'd place it in the offering plate, of course. Oh, I have another question.
Oh, yeah. Does the Square Terminal issue 2 receipts, one for the offering plate and one for the donor to keep?
It would work just like a merchant terminal in a store. That's the one good thing we can say about the Square Terminal is it will be able to generate a merchant copy and a user copy. But again, that user copy is still not going to be an official tax receipt. It's just going to be something that they can hold on to prove that they gave should there be a discrepancy in the numbers. But the official tax receipt would have to be generated by the church at a later date. Of course, it could be done immediately if it was a visitor, just like we do now.
So the one-time fee of the $59 for the terminal, for the Square Terminal, but what were the monthly and transaction fees for Square?
Square has no monthly fee. The transaction fees for Square are, he looks them up, 2.65% for credit card, when it's done using their direct tools. If you put it in manually by typing in the numbers, it's 3.4% plus 15 cents per transaction. And then the Interac is only 10 cents a transaction. So,
oh, wow. 10 cents a transaction to use your debit card with
debit
Square.
card. Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's interesting.
So it's not very much cost at all.
Okay, wait, there's some more. Square could also be used for sales and fees.
Yes, oh, absolutely. You could definitely, it doesn't have to be, in fact, you are the one who determines whether or not it's a charitable gift or not. So at the time of the transaction, there's no distinction made. You will have to book that as an accountant. So literally you can use it for anything. You can use it for a bake sale.
Exactly. In fact, I've heard congregations find it's really helpful when they're doing their bazaars and bake sales because people just don't carry cash anymore. And what's a checkbook? I don't know.
I don't, Mike, really. Well, actually, last time I wrote checks, it cost $60. I couldn't believe it. But the other thing is, I have two young adult sons in their 20s. Neither one of them ever has a penny on them. They just carry around their Apple Pay and their Google Pay, and they just think that that works.
So there's a comment that says, this was so helpful. Thank you for all your hard work. I'm going to have to watch this again later. The options are a bit overwhelming.
Well, please feel free to contact me. I'll answer any of your questions offline. There's my contact data. You can send me an email or give me a call, the extension 257. And that's really what I'm here for as the development manager. I want to help your church to grow and succeed, and anything I can do to help you, I really want to be there for you. So please do call me. Don't ever hesitate. Call me anytime, please.
All right, I'm just going to look once more to see if there was any questions I missed, but I think that's all I have for now. So Jim, I really want to thank you for presenting this webinar. We are working on more written materials so that you can find out more about these type of givings. You can watch for the next episode of The Connection. We're working on some information to go into that. But as he said, he's happy to work with you. If you want to wade through the options or decide what might be best for your congregation, give us a call, tell him, explain where you're at, many people are giving, what their customs are in the church, and he'll help walk you through these different solutions.
All right, thanks everybody.
Bye.